Hey guys, welcome or welcome back to etlqalabs. This is Hetu, and in this video we will look at difference between Unix and Linux. Yeah. So general perception is, guys, people think that Unix is kind of the initial version of this operating system, and then after that Linux came out of this Unix, right? And it is, I mean, kind of a flavor. That's what the people think about it. But guys, that's not true, yeah? So the story is completely different here. Unix and Linux both are altogether different, and there is no code sharing between these two. These are two independent system. Okay, so just by name, I mean, people think that they are the same thing, and then there is little variation, but the basically the code base is same, right? So it's not like that. So guys, let's try to understand it. What is Unix and what is Linux? So before we understand it, we need to look at a little bit history about this operating system, right? Unix operating system or Linux operating system. So what has happened is, guys, I will just brief you about little bit about the history, and then we will try to understand, and then it will be clear to you. So what happened, guys? In 1964, yeah, in this year, there was a project in Bell Laboratory. Yeah, so Bell Laboratory, USA, there was a project, and in that project, people were actually there were few people who were actually wanted to make an operating system which is multi-user operating system, because that was the need of the development over there, right, in that Bell Laboratory. So guys, what happened is, that project kicked off in 1964, but I think in 1969 they really hit a roadblocker. Okay, 1969 they withdraw this project because there was some major issues, yeah, with that development of itself, right? And then this Bell Laboratory has decided to put this on hold, and they withdraw it. But there were engineers who were working on this project, yeah. So the two engineers, right? So one is Dennis Ritchie. I think you might be knowing, right? Dennis Ritchie. Dennis Ritchie is a very famous name. I think if you might have read the book about, I mean, so C is the language, right? So C was written by Dennis Ritchie. Yeah, so he is the person who invented C, right? So what happened? There was a Dennis Ritchie, and there is another guy called Ken Thompson. Okay, his friend Ken Thompson. These two people were working on this project itself, right? When it was kicked off in 1964, and the project has been suddenly stopped, and these two people actually decided that this project should continue, and we should create this operating system with that same mission, right? And then they again actually they started, right? So it was kind of they were able to um, spend some time from their own, right? It was not the vision from the company, it was like the personal vision for them. So they started working on it. And after, I think, soon after that, I think after a couple of years, 2 3 years down the line, they have built something, yeah. So that particular they have been able to build something, and they kept the name of that system is Unix. Okay, this is how the Unix was, you can say, Unix was born, right? And guys, so what is the full form of this Unix? Because this was Unix, and later what happened is the same Unix, right? I mean, I mean, officially they have converted the name from Unix to Unix X, right? So this is how it is. Okay. Now, let's see that what is the full form of Unix, guys. So, full form of this Unix is Uniplexed Information and Computing Computing Services. Okay. So, guys, this is important as well. So, just keep this in mind, okay? And so just they might ask you what is the full form of Unix? Yeah, if somebody is really interested to know, right? So you should be knowing. That's why I covered it, right? But this is just a short name, right? So they have replaced CS with X. Okay, it is similar, right? The same thing, yeah. Okay. So this is how basically Unix, Unix was built. Yeah, Unix was built, and later what happened is like when they built this, two people built is they kept this particular software as free for use, right? Free for use to everybody. All right. So what happened is, after few years, I mean, this software, this operating system was already there, right? And it was free for everybody to use, right? And now there were companies, they actually, took the advantage of this free software, and they have come up with their own version, right? So those were nothing but the flavors basically. So for example, somewhere in 1975 to 1980, guys, during this year, what has happened? There were a lot of company who has actually used this particular free version of Unix, free software, and that they have built the their own system and they made it paid. So for example, IBM has made it IBM UX, okay? IBM UX, guys, okay? And Mac OS, Microsoft, right? Microsoft made it Mac OS. Sorry, guys. And then, sorry, 1 second. Microsoft. Then, guys, Sun Microsystem, right? Sun Microsystem. They made Sun Solaris. But guys, essentially they have made it, but actually they have used this same code base, okay? And they have modified it, they have tweaked it, whatever they need, little bit tweaking, and then they come up with their brand new version. And they kept all of this as a as a paid tool, right? So these were the paid operating system, and they started packaging and selling it out, right? So this is how basically, okay, let me put it here, guys, because I will use it for Linux, all right? So okay, let me, sorry, 1 second. 1 second. So guys, what has happened is, hopefully I'll take it here. Okay. So hope you're able to see now. Okay. Okay. So this was very important, guys. This was the very important, and that's how all these companies. So now still you see there are some projects, Sun Microsystem. So there are still some projects. You might see that people are still using the Sun Solaris, and mostly you might be seeing that the what is the Unix version they are using in the Solaris and all. In some of your projects you might have heard, right? But mostly in companies, right? Normally, since these are the paid tool, paid not tool, I would say, these are the paid operating system. That's why people, I mean, the companies do not prefer them because they have to pay the heavy license fees, guys, right? Now, so this is how the Unix came, and these are basically called the flavor of Unix, right? So all of them are called the flavors of Unix, okay? Flavors, because they are essentially made from the same code base of this Unix, right? That was invented by Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, yeah? And this was free. So yes, guys. So this is how the Unix has been invented. Now coming back to Linux, guys. Okay. So Linux has a very interesting story around it. Okay. So guys, there is nothing to do with Unix. When I say the Linux, it is completely altogether different code base and everything. So what has happened is there was a student. His name was Linus Torvald. Okay. Torvald. His name was Linus Torvald, and he was basically studying as a student in university, and then he had to basically, It is sometime around 1991, I guess. Yeah, 1991. Yeah. So all these flavors came during this point of time, 90, 80, and other things, and this became very popular in the market, and most of the companies started using it. Now, in 1991, this guy, Linus Torvald, actually he needed, some software, some operating system for his project purpose, right? But when he checked, market, he found that these companies are actually asking so much of money, right, for this particular operating system, and he got disappointed, because he needed it really to learn something, he wanted to build something, right? But he could not really afford it because they were so priced, right? So that's why the Linus Torvald actually decided that okay, I mean he cannot pay that huge amount of money. Then he started writing, by his own all the code. Obviously, he understood this concept and all, but he did not use this basically. He did not use any of this code from the Unix, this one that was developed by Dennis Ritchie and Ken Thompson, right? He started all by his own with the same concept, right? How Unix is. Unix should behave and all those functionality, other things. But he started everything by fresh, and he has started writing. And then when he completed the code, later this particular operating system become from Linux, it become Linux. Okay, the name of the operating system become Linux. And okay, guys. So initially it was only kernel. Okay, I will tell you this is still now. The Linux is still a kernel. I will tell you what is kernel. But then this is now, if you say the OS, then also it doesn't have any problem because everyone know that Linux is a kernel. But actually that's not true. Linux is sorry. Everyone know that Linux is operating system, but Linux is not at all operating system. It is just a part of operating system. It is just a kernel, right? So I'll tell you guys. Kernel. So what makes an operating system? Operating system is made up of kernel. Kernel is basically the heart of our brain of operating system. It basically have the interface between hardware and the shell, right? Maybe I will try to cover some time of how the architecture of Linux there, right? So it is kernel plus some softwares, right? This actually makes operating system. Okay, kernel plus software equal to operating system. So this Linux was a kernel only, but then there were some free software distribution happened during that point of time, and it has become a complete, and they have used it together with Linux kernel, and it become the operating system, guys. Okay, now I hope you are able to understand up to this point. Okay. Now what happened when this guy Linus Torvald was basically building this, and he has intention that he will keep it for free for use for everybody. Okay, because he has faced that crisis, and he wanted so he wanted not I mean he wanted that people whoever want whoever want to do the further development. So this Linux version, whatever code base, he wanted to keep it free, so he kept it free again. Okay, this free software, free OS now. Okay, so this was free completely. Now again, the same story has happened. How it has happened here, right? When Dennis Ritchie, they have kept it free, and then what happened? Companies came and they built all of this, right? And they started packaging and selling it as a paid tool, paid operating system. Now, similar thing has happened here also, guys. Okay. So what happens for Linux also? There were many company because this was free. So many companies started using it and they started building their own flavors, right? So what has happened is like there were company like Red Hat. Okay. So what Red Hat built is that is called RHL, RHEL. Okay. This is RHEL, basically Red Hat Enterprise Linux, right? So this is the one of the flavor that Red Hat built it, and this was paid. All right. This was paid. Everything was paid, guys, because these companies are making something for their profit, right? It is for for their, and there were other companies like Fedora. They also built their version of it, and they started packaging and selling in the market. And there were some free as well. Not everyone were kind of selling it for uh, paid, right? So there were some free version. Okay, so there were some free also. What were those? There were Ubuntu and CentOS, I think. Yes, CentOS as well. Okay. So Ubuntu, I will show you guys. I am using Ubuntu as of now. So this is free, yeah. But this is the version of Linux only. Okay. So if you see most of the companies right now or nowadays, they are basically using Red Hat. I mean, it is paid tool. Or they are using Ubuntu or CentOS, or maybe there is another one called Kali Linux also, right? Kali Linux. This is mostly used for hackers, yeah. So all this kind of these were basically the free. Okay, these are the free versions. Now, these free versions are very, very important, and people are using it without paying any money for them, right? So this is how it is, okay? And this is the main difference. I think it is I think clear, and hope you are able to understand that what is Unix and what is Linux. So now I think your doubt is clear that Unix and Linux both are completely different code base, okay? And they are not at all same, and there will be some commands which will work in Unix and Linux both, okay guys. So obviously, because the concept is supposed to be same, so there will be, but there will be differences as well, yeah. So you should so hope it you are able to understand, guys. Okay. Now coming back to another thing, I would like to tell you. So when I say operating system, guys, okay, when I say operating system, OS can be of two type. Okay, one can be CLI, that is nothing but command line interface, and there is another one called GUI. Okay, graphical user interface, guys. Okay, graphical user interface. Okay. So when I say command line interface, it is nothing but the command prompt of our Linux. Okay. I mean, when you log in through putty, or when you log in, I'll show you using something like this. Yeah. I think I'm not there, I guess, right? One second, guys. It has. So I think I have already shown you, right? I mean, I have already in the previous session also I have written. So the place where that command line, that's where we are writing your code, right? Basically the commands, right? So that is nothing but command line interface, because actually you are typing the command, okay? So giving an instruction and typing command to perform anything, for example, to create a directory, we basically say mkdir directory name. To go to directory, we say cd and directory name, something like that, right? So we actually typing the command. That operating system, those operating system are called CLI. Okay. So when I say what are the operating system which are having the CLI, so in that case, Unix and Linux, these operating system will comes under CLI, because we are actually typing command to perform any kind of activity, right? What is graphical user? So this is another set of so this one I will say Linux, guys, or Unix, okay? And here I will say it is Windows, right? So Windows is basically graphical user interface, because we can see everything. We can create a folder. We can say right click. If we want to go inside, we can say double click and go inside, right? So we can actually, graphical means we can see everything what is there, okay? But in case of CLI, we cannot see. We have to just type a command to perform any kind of operation, okay? So window is GUI, and Linux is CLI, guys, okay? Even Linux Linux is having basically Ubuntu and all is having some GUI as well, but those are not famous, right? So they are basically supposed to be CLI. I mean, CLI is more powerful for Linux and Unix kind of operating system. Okay. So this is guys briefly I wanted to cover. Okay, so I think hope you are able to understand the difference between Linux and Linux, okay, Unix and Linux, and I think if somebody is asking question around it, I think you should be able to answer, right? The any kind of questions around it, right? So this was a little introduction about Linux versus Linux. And guys, I thought this is very important, and many people asked me actually that sir, can you please cover what is difference between Unix and Linux, because people are actually interchangeably using. Okay, so but yeah, I mean this is how it is. So thank you guys, thank you for watching, and see you next time with the next video. Until then, happy learning and God bless you. And one more request, guys, if you're not subscribed my channel, if you feel that it is really helping you to learn new things or good for your career growth, interviews, etc. So please do consider to subscribe this channel. And until then, happy learning, guys. Bye.